What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Talking Head kind of series video. I'm making this video obviously on man caves and how I think they're a reflection on men these days and where they're at and how I don't really care for it. It's kind of like modern art in my opinion, how I don't really consider it much. I don't really consider any of that stuff art. Like if you glue a shoe to the wall and circle it or something, people are in awe over like, I wonder what this means. Again, art's subjective, so to each their own, but in my opinion, I'm more of the romantic kind of guy, like real art, like people like Gustave Doré, like real artist, surrealist in that way. But again, that's personal. But the whole man cave thing, I see it in a way like grown men just staying kids. And I don't really care for that so much. I like the growing up aspect of life. I've always wanted to be an adult. Even when I was a kid, I was like, being a kid fucking sucks, I just want to go do my own thing. I want to go smoke. I want to drink. I want to have fun with the girls. I want to be an adult. And I've always been that way. That's why school to me felt like jail. But when I go and see certain things, and there's a lot of videos, and I don't really have any friends that do this really. There's no real man caves friends in my life. Most of my friends are grown-ups and they have a little library, they have this, they have that, and like me, it's a little separated. Like I have a room for sleeping, I have a room for entertainment, watching TV, and I have a room for learning and, deeper thought stuff, chess playing, cool shit like that. Now the whole man cave fad is just, it's kind of like the tailgaters, like it perpetuates that, but into your house where it's leisure all the time and just kind of fucking off. And I don't know, life's short, man. We do enough fucking off to begin with. So do you really want that to be a big staple in your life? Where everything's, and you see a lot of people have a huge amount of money invested in these things where they literally have a video store in their house, it's kind of cool in certain regards, because I grew up in that era. So video stores to me are awesome. But they're, again, like I have one wall of videos because I have physical media collection and that's all I need. I don't need a whole room to it. That's excessive in my opinion. And if you do that, to each your own, there's not that big of a deal. It's your life. You get to do what you want with it. But again, at least for me personally, like books have been a big part of my life, my whole life. But I never really became an avid reader until I became an adult because I didn't have the learned ability of concentration. Like when I was a kid, I would read a book and I would read for pages and then I just stop and go, what the fuck did I just read? Because the whole time I'm thinking about some scene in my head that I'm just creating some fantasy or whatever, just daydreaming. And I didn't retain anything. So I didn't really finish a book until I was an adult and read it page to page and actually absorbed it and I was into it. So that's where I'm at now, essentially. But the whole man cave thing to me is just, I think it brings men down, honestly. Because you can still do all that stuff, but it doesn't have to be a dedicated thing where like that's all you do when you're there. You know what I mean? And again, like I was saying in the beginning, it's a reflection on men and where they're at. Where, all their leisure time is just kind of drinking and just watching mind-numbing crap, just wasting the hours, wasting it away. And it's not like you're growing from that. Yes, it's a fun experience as it happens, but you can still have those. It doesn't have to be the whole thing, right? There should be a balance there somewhere. I mean, we could all go online right now and just type in videos of, whatever. It'll show you the average person's intelligence just by questioning them on the street. And they're not too bright these days. They're just not. And I'm not acting like I'm some fucking genius over here. I'm not. I'm stupid in a lot of different things. But I try, right? Like we all should. We should all try and learn things and build our knowledge and be interested in things and pursue those things, hopefully. Have a little inspiration in our lives, if you can. I mean, we all wax and wane in that regard. But if you follow me and you know my channel, you know that I've been working with my hands since I was a kid. Like, that's just my gift to this world. I work with my hands and I'm good with it. And I'm a very right-brained person, especially being a left-handed individual. So a lot of my thoughts are over here. Not thoughts like logical thoughts, but like my intuitive, just puzzle solving. You know, this is where you put the blocks in the hole. This is this side of the brain. So I've always been more prone to that stuff. That's why even the video games, if I play a video game, it'll be like Myst or Riven, like those old stuff from the 90s, where it's a puzzle. The whole game's a puzzle. You're trying to figure it out. Those really get my interest. So that's probably why I'm into chess so much, because it's the same kind of thing and it's super frustrating. Anyway, off topic. But I think it's super important, especially in this day and age, because we're raising a generation, and by we, the collective whole, obviously, a generation of, and I'm just going to use men here because I'm a man and I can only speak for men, you know, and probably 2-3 women watch my videos. And one's my mom and my neighbor. What's up? But we're raising generations of men who are super soft, not that intelligent, at least when it comes to practical skills and abilities. You can be intelligent in a lot of different ways. Like, you can be very book smart, you can be very intelligent in again, a lot of different ways, but they're not applicable to life in a lot of different regards. Like, if there's an emergency situation, a lot of people don't know anything about that situation and how to handle it. They just flip out and hopefully they can call somebody, right? And hopefully somebody can save them in that regard. And I hope they do save you in that regard, because that could be a scary thing. But you should also know how to get yourself out of situations. You should know how to change a tire and fix a spark plug and change a fuse. You know what a fuse is, a breaker box. If your outlet in your wall starts smoking, you should know how to stop that smoke and fire and fix that. It's a super basic thing. You shouldn't have to pay somebody hundreds of dollars to come do it for you. I mean, good for that person, obviously, and good for you having the money to pay him, and helping the economy. But you should also know how to do those things yourself. Because, you know, if you look around at society, and it's not becoming the best place for all of us, right? And systems that we supposedly relied on aren't supposed to be there to help us. They're not always there. And a lot of crisis situations, look at California, like, they're going through horrible, horrible things because of 1, natural disasters, 2, corruption, and 3, neglect. So it's just a big, pun intended, unfortunately, firestorm, right? So it ruins a lot of people's lives because a lot of people don't know what to do. Remember, in fire situations like that, one of the smartest things you actually can do is stay with your fucking house. Because fires just don't magically burn your whole house down. They start as a little ember, and then they grow into a bigger fire, and then your house is on fire. So if you're out there in protective gear and you're just squirting those spots that want to catch fire, guess what? Your house will be there after the fire passes through the brush fields. And it's not every situation, and not everyone can do that, obviously, but it's a variable in the situation. So to me, it's super practical. Like, and my thing against the man caves is I don't have a man cave. I have a study. Like all the Englishmen and all the learned men and all of our history books, they all had studies. None of them had a fucking man cave. It did not exist. Did they have a playroom? Absolutely. It was usually a billiards kind of style thing where it was just a pool table or some card games. But those, in and of themselves, are not mind-numbing operations, right? It takes intelligence, it takes foresight, it takes logical thinking to work through those situations as simple as a pool game. Pool games, there's a lot of angles and variables and pressure points, things involved like that. And those things will keep your mind going, keep it sparking. It's not just some random clicking of a game over. And those can be very helpful for people, especially with cognitive disabilities. But when you're doing that all day and you're getting all this blue light in your eyeballs all day, ruining your melatonin, and your dopamine reward system is getting all hijacked by all this, just like all these phones do. They just hijack our dopamine receptors, right? So it's just like a druggie with a fix. All the scroll, ooh, like, ooh, like. It's very unhealthy for us. So to step away from that stuff and you use it, you all use technology, right? But use it for what it's intended for and not get addicted to these things. I even find that with the chess app I use. I get super addicted to that thing sometimes. I have to just put it down because I start getting frustrated. And then I pick it right back up, you know? So I gotta get my fix. So I gotta step away, and I give myself an allotted time now. But again, back to the more learned men in generations before us, they didn't have these man caves where you spend all these hours creating this really, and then some are fucking awesome, right? But it's a lot of wasted time where you could really be growing as an individual, I think. So I think for the modern man, it is super important to have a little library for yourselves. Put aside at least an hour, like at least an hour. Come on. And especially if you're a slower reader, like I'm not the fastest reader in the world, so I have to read usually at least 2 hours a day to get enough reading done for the day that I feel is enough for me, because I don't want to spend weeks and weeks on a single book. But it's super important, in my opinion, to have a library and just to start fill your mind with things that you just don't know, but you've always been interested in, maybe, you know? Because as you guys know, I do blacksmithing. So I remember when I used to go around and do events, there would be people like, oh man, I always wanted to do that. I was like, well, what the fuck is stopping you? Go do it. It's one of the cheapest things in the world. You can do it with a barbecue grill and a rock. You know what I mean? It's not that difficult. You're not going to have all the fancy gear I have, but it took me 15 years to get all that shit. And a lot of debt. So you got to work up to things, but just start. Life's short. You could be dead tomorrow. Just start. Doesn't matter where. Doesn't matter how. Just start. It's super important. It really is, because you might not ever get to it. And now you're 80 if you're lucky to live that long. And you're looking back, you're like, wow, I never did that. And now I can't because my body will not be able to produce that. And that will be something you'll have to live with. And it will be unfortunate. And we'll all have certain things like that. I'm not trying to shame anybody here, but I'll have things I didn't do that I wanted to. For sure, 100%. I can guarantee it. But whatever. I did a bunch of things that I wanted to do. Some I did really well, some I did not do well at all. And some I started and stopped. I'm really good at that too. I'm not perfect. But to really help and build your knowledge and to have practical skills these days is super important. Because again, I'm in the trades. I do a lot of things for people in their homes, and most people don't know how to do anything. They're more than capable of it, but they don't know how. And they have a mentality of that. Oh, I just don't know. I don't know how. We'll learn. YouTube, it's right there. Everyone's got it at their access. You know, I've learned so many things off of YouTube. So many, because I'm a very tactile learner. So if I see you doing something, I can learn it just like that. And it's just part of who I am. And I know a lot of people are like that too. That's why they didn't do well in school, because they don't teach you that way in school. So it's super important these days, because society's only going to go, it's only going to lower for us, you know, as we go on these years. And the officials running everything are just going to keep screwing things up and stealing your money. They don't care. They really don't care, because they have people, they have mansions, they're perfectly fine and taken care of. We're the ones that are going to suffer everything, because we pay everyone's debt and we hold up the whole world because we do all the work. So for you to not have any practical skills or abilities can be very dangerous in this world. Even practical knowledge, like street knowledge, and you know, when you're approaching somebody, what's their body language like? You know, there's plenty of books on that. If you're a very introverted person like me, where I meet a lot of people for the most part, but some people don't meet anybody on the street, so they don't really have any social skills that way. There's lots of videos and books you can read to learn about those things as well and help educate. And then you can go out in the field and put it in practical application of the things you learned, right? But again, I'm going to show a couple books that I have in my library that I think I got them at, I think, Barnes & Noble for a few bucks. They were on the bargain bin section because nobody wanted them. But I think they're super, super useful. And they're country wisdom books, or this is a country wisdom and that is a survival wisdom. They're huge books, like huge books. They're not small. But look at these pages. Look how much information's on these pages. It's amazing. Well, these books, I mean, let's see, it starts off with animals. This particular one, the country wisdom, starts off with animals, so you can identify animals. It goes to cooking, especially in my neighborhood. There's not a lot of good cooks. So A lot of good cooking ideas in here. If you don't know how to cook, you can learn how to cook. We all don't have parents that know how to cook. I was lucky I did. I have a great mom who knows how to cook. I've got an uncle that knows how to cook really well. Crafts, if you want to do crafts. It says crafting in here. You can learn to knit and stitch and everything. It's super useful, especially if you can't afford to go have somebody fix or hem a pant or leg or anything for you. Gardening tips, a whole section on gardening, planting, sowing, everything. How to plant, plant specific things, corn, tomatoes, everything. It goes on and on. And the gardening is a huge section here. It looks like about a third of the book almost. Health and well-being. Again, when hardships are around, you're not going to be able to afford to go to the hospital. And if you are going to go to the hospital, you might just be put on something that's going to get you addicted to it and slowly decline you. And they'll put you on another pill to hopefully subside those symptoms, right? That's not health. It's just not health. So health and wellness is super important. To know anything about it is important, right? Like, don't overdo anything. That's rule number one. Have a balance. Home. This is really cool. Look at this section. Home. Hopefully you can see that. Now, this is showing you electrical work. It's showing you plumbing work. It's showing you tile repair work. Super basic things. Things I get paid a bunch of money to do for people because they don't want to or don't know how to, or both. It doesn't really matter, but everyone can do these things. I mean, if you're obviously physically injured where you can't do certain things, that's a different story, but I'm sure you'll have somebody in your life to help you out. But again, these books are super important. This is just one of them. I have another one here. It is Survival, Wisdom, and Know-How. Now, let me add this. I live in New York City. I live in the Bronx, and obviously it's not the country, but the country is not far away. It never is. Even in Los Angeles, the country's not that far away. You know, it's a bike ride away sometimes, depending on where you're at. I mean, maybe if you're in the center of it, it's a little different. But there's always a patch of dirt somewhere. There's an animal somewhere. Like when shit hits the fan, you better believe there's going to be people in the park killing geese because they're going to need to eat something, right? Stuff can get that bad. It's just a matter of time. Doesn't mean it will, but it can, you know? But this is really great. This shows you how to track animals and footprints and the regions of where they're, predominantly at. This is great stuff, man. I love these books. And these books were so cheap. Flowers, trees, and other plants and mushrooms, so you can identify things properly. Beautiful pictures, and it shows you about the breakdown of the actual growing pattern, so you can identify things. Super cool material. These books are invaluable to me. And there's a lot of books like this I have in my collection. It's not like, again, I'm not all-knowing anything here. There's plenty of things in these books I don't know. But there's a lot in there I do know just because from my life experiences, I've learned these things, right? So it's not like it's a book I open all the time. But if there's something that comes up, I can fall back on these. Because if you pay attention these days and you go online and you do any searches when you're trying to find something, guess what pops up now? AI. And AI is a program by another human, essentially. Yes, there's some intelligent thinking behind it with its own processing, but it still goes off of a code in a program by somebody else. So there's a narrative behind it. That's why if you look at a lot of Kindle books compared to actual physical books, the physical books always get the better reviews and the Kindles don't, because there's always missing information. There's misinformation in there. And a lot of times you can't find the books. Sometimes they'll just disappear off your reader entirely. And like, where'd my book go? Because the book's gone now, right? These aren't going to go anywhere unless, God forbid something bad happens. But I have these. I could just pull it off the shelf, open it, boom, I've got information. I've got books from the 1800s. They're a lot older information, more very useful information that it's not part of this, modern collective that we have of, pushing certain information on people. It's like it's the modern book burning, essentially. Everything goes through publishers. They're only going to allow certain things out. And, well, those certain things, they're missing a lot. Like this right here. This is the Odyssey here by Homer. This is a Barnes & Noble edition. This is not even the complete Odyssey. The fucking guy shortened it. You took out whole parts of the Odyssey. What is that? You know what I mean? Like, what is the point? And there's another modern translation. I think it's Emily Watson or some fucking leftist nut job. Excuse me if you're a leftist nut job. But she did the Iliad and I believe the Odyssey. But the way she translated it, you can tell there's an agenda behind it. And it's a woke agenda. It's like, what's going on? Is this what we're doing now? Like, you're just going to change this? Like, these are epic works, and you're going to change it to fit a modern narrative because you feel it's too male-centric or too egocentric or whatever the fuck word you want to use for it. I don't know. I don't even think that way. But that's not good, man. That's not good. And it's definitely not good to raise men who are super weak and timid. It's not a natural state for a man. It's just not. Some men are naturally, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But to raise men like that, where like the mass majority are going to be that way, that's super unsafe. Super unsafe. Because guess what? The bad people out there, the bad men predominantly, they don't live that way. They weren't raised that way. They're feral. They're mean. They'll do bad things to you. And your partner ain't going to protect you because he can't. He's super weak himself. You'd probably beat the dude up before your dude can beat him up. That's a very dangerous situation. And I don't think it's right. I don't think it's a right way for all of us to go down. You know what I mean? So I don't want to ramble on too much. I just kind of wanted to touch on that because I don't really like seeing it out there, you know? And everyone tell me your thoughts. I'm open to all thoughts and ideas on this. So this is like my fourth attempt at making this video, so we'll see if it turns out well, if I'll post it. But I truly think everyone should have their own personal library. Everyone should have a place for study so they have critical thinking and learn critical thinking, because we're not taught it in school these days. It does not work. Multiple choice is not critical thinking. That's just not the model for that kind of thought. But again, these are my opinions and my feelings. I hope everyone gets a little something from this. Maybe learns a little something. And shoot back to in the comments if you have any ideas. And maybe I'll do another one, guys. Thanks a lot. Take care.